This video is going to pretty much echo the video that the True Royal Family did. Shout out to her, by the way. Where I really don't care about who won the Senate seat in Alabama because of how a lot of politicians are, whether they are Republican or the Democrat. We just bask in this because we know how it's going to make 45 feel, and I think a lot of times we just really live to see what he's going to tweet and how he's going to feel after this because he stays in his feelings. And then because of all the stuff that was surrounding Roy Moore, I don't think a lot of people wanted him back in. So it's pretty much confirmed that after last evening's results came back, that Doug Jones ended up winning the Senate seat for the Democrats for the state of Alabama. And he is the first Democrat to win that seat since the 90s. I think they said it's been a little bit over 2 decades since someone in Alabama has won, especially since Alabama is a red state. Well, in this aspect, it kind of just went back blue. But I think a lot of people were just glad that Roy Moore did not get in or did not get reelected. Well, get this position that I believe they said Jeff Sessions used to have before he became the Attorney General. I'm going to go ahead and read this article that's coming from the New York Times. It says, Doug Jones, a Democratic former prosecutor who mounted a seemingly quixotic Senate campaign in the face of Republican dominance here, defeated his scandal-scarred opponent Roy S. Moore after a brutal campaign marked by accusations of sexual abuse and child molestation against the Republican, according to the Associated Press. The upset delivered an unimagined victory for Democrats and shaved Republicans' unstable Senate majority to a single seat. Mr. Jones' victory could have significant consequences on the national level, snarling Republicans' legislative agenda in Washington and opening for the first time a realistic but still difficult path for Democrats to capture the Senate next year. It amounted to a stinging snub of President 45, who broke with much of his party and fully embraced Mr. Moore's candidacy, seeking to rally support for him in the closing days of the campaign. Amid thunderous applause from his supporters at a downtown hotel, Mr. Jones held up his victory as a message to Washington from voters fed up with political warfare. For once, he said, Alabama had declined to take the wrong fork at a political crossroads. We have shown the country the way that we can be unified, Mr. Jones declared, draping his election in the language of reconciliation and consensus. This entire race has been about dignity and respect. This campaign has been about the rule of law. Mr. Trump tweeted his congratulations to Mr. Jones on a hard-fought victory. I wonder how hard that was for him to do. The people of Alabama are great, and the Republicans will have another shot at this seat in a very short period of time, he wrote. It never ends. This is what 45 wrote. Congratulations to Doug Jones on a hard-fought victory. The write-in votes played a very big factor, but a win is a win. The people of Alabama are great, and the Republicans will have another shot at this seat in a very short period of time. It never ends. Propelled by a backlash against Mr. Moore, an intensely polarizing former judge who was accused of sexually assaulting young girls, Mr. Jones overcame the state's daunting demographics and deep cultural conservatism. His campaign targeted African American voters, of course, with a sprawling muscular turnout operation, and appealed to educated white voters to turn their back to the Republican Party. Now, before I go any further, remember I did a video talking about Kayla Moore, who is the wife of Roy Moore, in which she said that they have black and Jews as friends. Well, it looks after this turnout that even with all that ass kissing they did to their so-called black friends, it didn't pay off for them in the end. And I know that she is probably now disappointed in her so-called black friends. Those pleas paid off on Tuesday as precincts in Birmingham and in the suburbs handed Mr. Jones overwhelming margins, while he also won convincingly in Huntsville and other urban centers. The abandonment of Mr. Moore by affluent white voters, along with strong support from black voters, proved decisive, allowing Mr. Jones to transcend Alabama's rigid racial polarization and assemble a winning coalition, and solidifying Mr. Jones' victory with a Republican-leaning residents who chose to write it in the name of a third candidate rather than back one of the 2 major party nominees. More than 20,000 voters here cast write-in ballots, which amounted to 1.7% of the electorate, about the same as Mr. Jones' overall margin. To progressive voters, Mr. Jones' victory was a long-awaited rejection of the divisive brand of politics that Alabama has inevitably rewarded, even as some of its southern neighbors were turning to more moderate leaders. At a party for Mr. Jones, Sue Bell Cobb, a former chief judge of the Alabama Supreme Court, said that he had overcome a culture of toxic partisanship, reaching out to Republicans and electrifying the rest of Democrats. And there's more to the story. There's more to, but it's a really long article. But I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna just leave the link in the description, and you can read the rest of it. But hey, it is what it is. But I do also think that stuff that came out about Roy Moore definitely played a part. But it was looking kind of crazy, like scary and spooky at first, because for a while they kept saying it was too close to call. Like they were this close to voting in a person they knew was a pedophile. It goes back to what LVZ said in his video when he said Alabama needs a new slogan. But it is what it is. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments.